Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
Contrary to popular belief, sometimes it takes a minute to find yourself. And if you found yourself within the sound of my voice, that must mean you are in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I am your host for this podcast where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of entertainment industry professionals and pick their brains about not only current projects, but state of the industry, what got them into the business, and all sorts of fun stuff. If you need to subscribe, you can find us over at Apple Podcasts, at Spotify Podcasts, and you can find every single episode archived over on our YouTube channel. Please follow us on the social media as well, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at In the Seats or at It's Podcast One for all the latest updates. And finally, please join us where it all began, over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, for all the latest and greatest movie news, reviews, and all sorts of fun things under the sun. On this episode, we're looking at the movie St. Francis, and we are talking with director Alex Thompson and writer and star Kelly O'Sullivan. It is a charming story because it's a real story. It's an honest story, and it deals with Bridget, who is played by Kelly O'Sullivan, the star, who finally is sort of she's trying to find herself. She's a server, and she gets this gig as a nanny, which ends up going real well. And after a unintended pregnancy, and with a guy that she had a one night stand with, but ends up sort of being in a relationship with. It's not really a spoiler, but she begins to find herself as she serves as a nanny for this adorable Frances, who really steals the scene. A young Edith Williams, excuse me, and she finds the joy in life and in family, rather than trying to sort of live up to the expectations that are thrust upon people all throughout society. And it's really one of those movies that reminds us that life tends to move at its own pace, and it's not the kind of thing that we can't judge ourselves by what other people do, and we have to find our own way in this universe, which is a really important thing. And when we talked with Alex and Kelly, we talked about the origins of the story, getting the film made, having a little bit of a festival and sort of theatrical run before COVID hit, and just sort of the inspiration for a story like this, and the things that got them into the business. And they're both they were really fantastic to talk to, and I hope you enjoy our talk. All right. Now, I mean, obviously, first off, just congratulations on the movie. I absolutely loved it. And I mean, I think I fell in love probably in the opening scene, because I've been to that party. I've hated being at that party. Walk me through sort of the initial idea for the story.
No, just that it was based on me actually having had an abortion and then also being a nanny, and I wanted to juxtapose those in the same summer. Do you still have us? Are we still
Yes,
here?
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Great. And so it sort of sprung from there, and then it got fictionalized from there. And then that first scene was actually a pickup. We had shot the rest of the movie, and we realized that we needed to tell people who Bridget was and how old she was and where she was in her life, and do it in a funny way that set up the tone. So
yeah, we'd sent out the film to a lot of both people that we trusted and people we didn't know, who our producers trusted. Some of our producers trusted, and they were just like, this movie's funny, but I don't get it. Who is this person? Why are we watching her have sex? Why do we care about her life? And we were like, oh, I think we need to clarify some things. So yeah, glad you like that scene.
Was it always important for you guys to have this sort of set up as a bit of I hate using the word, but like a dramedy, like a little bit of drama, a little bit of comedy? Because, I mean, I found it funny because it was true. It felt true. It was awkward and it was honest, rather than trying to go gonzo. How did you guys sort of try to navigate that line?
Yeah, tone was always really important for the film, knowing that we were going to be dealing with issues that people, have traditionally seen as being very, very dramatic. And knowing that we weren't necessarily going to treat them with ultimate gravitas, that it was going to, no matter what, always be true. And I think the truth of certain life situations is that it is funny and it is sad then. And it's sort of always riding that wave of both comedy and drama. And so we knew from the very beginning that we wanted to set up the film in a way that people knew they could laugh, because laughter is so much of the film.
Yeah. We didn't set out to shoot it like explicitly. We didn't want to shoot it like a comedy, but then we also didn't want to actually underline any dramatic scenes in any way that would sort of put a hat on a hat for an audience member, give anyone an out.
No, for sure. I mean, when you're making something like this, how do you, and I mean, because as creative people, as storytellers, you've got to let the art come first, but I've got to imagine there's always going to be a bit of a sort of pull to go, well, if we did this way, maybe we could sell it a little bit easier. How do you sort of manage, sort of keep the line to stay true to the kind of story that you want to tell? Because these kind of movies have been done before, but either done in a super dramatic way or done in a super silly way.
Yeah, I feel very lucky that we were sort of working just entirely on our own. The budget was small enough that we went to private investors, but nobody was handing down these notes that, now having been in some meetings with like executives, I know that the script would have gotten an extensive list of notes had we tried to go like the Hollywood route and
Right.
make it a multi-million-dollar movie and try to attract a star. It would have taken us like years to try to get the movie made. But also there's no way that it would have maintained the spirit that it has now. And I think it would have been corrupted, but because we really did stay on our own track, we got to make it exactly what we wanted and take very little input.
Yeah, outside of the like core group of creatives.
Yeah.
And we did sort of overshoot, we shot like we cut like 25 minutes, which is like 25 pages out of the film. But
Wow.
I am glad we shot that stuff. It was a good part of the process.
For you, is it just like when you're making a film, like, do you want to overshoot? Do you want to be able to have sort of that extra material to pull on? Because I mean, especially in independent filmmaking, it's very much shoot and go because you just don't have the time to do anything but.
Well, I mean, I would say like it's better to know exactly what you need from the story from the get-go, because then every day is money, every page is money. And so in some ways, I think a bigger budget serves, overshooting maybe more than a smaller budget. Smaller budget, it's like figure out exactly what you need, even down to like, we don't need more than these 2 lenses, which is what we basically shot on, 2 lenses for the whole film. And then we had one sort of special, but I think really what it was wanting to privilege the script, the written script, and really like privilege Kelly's vision. And then the edit was sort of a different process. It was just it was saying, okay, now we know what the movie feels like up on its feet. What does it need pacing wise? What does it need in terms of, audience engagement and all that stuff?
During this entire process, because I mean, obviously, especially in the States, you got a little bit of play festival wise before everything sort of shut down and happened and then it released. How has sort of the run up been for you? Because I've got to imagine on one end, it's been a little disappointing because maybe you didn't necessarily get all the audience sort of feedback that you might have wanted. But on the other end, you've got captive audiences now, and there's going to be a lot of people who can sort of experiment and explore and check out a film like this.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's both. We feel very lucky that we had a release in New York in the late February and then in LA in early March. And then that's when it was supposed to open theatrically in like 50 different cities. And that's when it got shut down. But we did have a vibrant festival run, and we did get to have those 2 beautiful weekends with live audiences. And a lot of films didn't even get that. And so we're trying to say, look at the positive and say we kind of got the best of both worlds, because like you said, there's going to be an audience that maybe wouldn't have gone to their local art house to go see it in the theater, but are looking for things to watch at home now. And so looking on the bright side.
Yeah, it's been really nice seeing like the press coverage adapt to that too, where there's this embrace with major publications of, streaming offerings. And you see people even like diving into their backlog of like, hey, check out this movie that's streaming on the Criterion channel that I love. I'm going to write it up and, review it like it's a film that came out yesterday. So it's interesting how everybody's adapting to this moment, but I certainly don't think we're hurting for it, a film like this.
Well, and I mean, it really has brought a certain democratization to film in general. Like in normal universes, you wouldn't be able to stand on the same platform as an Avengers movie or something like that. But now it's all on the same thing, which I think is really kind of a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's right. It's cool. And our distributor was able to make that pivot so fast. Like we were one of the first movies that partnered with the art houses when the shutdown first happened. Right. And so there was like the virtual cinema component of it as well. And that felt so special to sort of be on the front lines of that. So there's some really cool things that have come out of it.
Yeah.
Now, for the both of you, I'm always kind of curious because I love to ask this question. Can you boil it down for you, like your personal experience in the business as storytellers, actors, filmmakers, what have you? Can you boil it down to like a single movie that maybe sort of had the light bulb go off in your head to go, okay, I want to do this?
I mean, my earliest influences are like old MGM musicals and Abbott and Costello. And I think there was something about like the escapism and fun and joy of that I thought, oh, that's their job. They get to do that.
Yeah.
It was really inspiring. And I'm still inspired by those old grand musicals. That was probably the first time that I was like, I want to make a life in the arts and do what they do.
I remember watching like, I'd had this idea that I wanted to be a director since I was like 8 or 9, but I remember watching like The Matrix and aping all those sort of stylistic choices, and then seeing a movie like very, very almost at the same time, like Casablanca, and just thinking like, oh my God, this is alchemy that I can't just mimic. Like I can't just do bullet time. Like whatever this is the puzzle that I want to tackle. Like I love The Matrix, and I'm really looking forward to the new film. But I remember that particular like summer of watching those two films side by side and thinking, oh wow, I don't even know what this job is, but it's the job I want.
How do you, because I mean, when I look at the film, the one word that really pops up for me is honesty, because it feels honest. Bridget is an honest human being. She's not a character, she's a human being. And that really does come across not only through the writing, but through your performance as well. And I'm kind of curious, from your perspectives, how do you think we can keep to, I'm looking for the right word to say this, but have honest depictions of human beings and just life in general? Because there's ups, there's downs, there's awkward moments, there's funny moments that we have to laugh at. It's all rolled into one.
Yeah. I mean, I would say it's something that we're talking about in meetings with like creative executives, that the more we can just trust that audiences want that, because I think that there's this fear that unless there are super dramatic stakes, or unless there are, explosions, or unless the character is really interesting in a way that normal people aren't, that audiences aren't going to be interested. And this movie has shown us that people want to feel like what they're watching is authentic. And like you're saying, that they're real people. And so I don't know. I mean, I would hope that people who have money to give to people who want to make movies are equally interested in stories about normal people as they are interested in, superhero movies.
Yeah. I think the thing that's resonated with me is that this St. Francis hasn't been embraced because of like, a second act break, and nor has it been rejected because it doesn't hit its midpoint right. That those sort of structural and archetypal expectations that we think are just sort of part and parcel of filmmaking might actually be more of a residual effect of just human beings' ability to tell stories, and that it's actually that the more important thing is connecting. And the honesty that you pointed out, less so than actually looking for well, what's the hero's journey of this story? You know, how can we let's refer back to Sid Field and really break it down. I haven't found that those are the reference points that have pushed something beyond, generally okay. Especially, I mean, Kelly's script scared the shit out of me because of that. Because it was great without having any structural integrity at all. And so it was just terrifying to make it and have it be somewhat successful and then say, oh God, well then what do we do now? We just have to keep being honest and making work that resonates beyond structure? Fuck.
There wasn't a run to the airport? Oh no, how is this going to work?
Yeah. Though I do think we kind of got that run to the airport at the end with her.
A little bit. No, you're right. Yeah.
Out the door, Yeah, we cheated a little.
Now, for both of you, if money wasn't an object, what's the dream project?
We have them already to go. Well, I mean, you talk about this, but I would love to, if I had all the money in the world, make a huge musical, like a Gene Kelly.
Oh, yeah, that'd be cool.
Musical. That'd be so amazing. And I mean, I would love to make another version. I would love to make a Hitchcock film. Things that require lots of money, and locations and things that we don't yet have. Well,
there's, in the same way that Ramona is this undeniable presence, I think seeing people dance, actually dance, is sort of undeniable in a way, which is really exciting. But I think for me, no money is no object. It would be many films back to back, never stopping, in all genres. And, I think it would be just continuing to build this family that we started to build with St. Francis. And,
there is, I mean, I mean, I hate using this word, but I mean, the character Bridget, and I mean, the story, this entire film really feels sort of, and I mean, I'm a guy, so it feels stupid even saying this, but it feels very sort of honest and representative of what it can mean to be a woman, and especially having to deal with postpartum and having to deal with so many of these things that people just don't want to talk about. And I'm kind of curious, how do you think, and I mean, representation feels like an ugly, sort of pseudo word, and I hate saying it, but how do you think we sort of keep that up? Is it just through sort of honest storytelling?
I think so. And I think people supporting women's stories and people of color's stories, and not writing it off. I sort of worried that people would write off this story because, as oh, it's just a woman's story. But so many men have said this really impacted me. I felt for these characters. I learned something. I was there with them for their journey. And so I think continuing to support and enable those kinds of filmmakers and storytellers.
Yeah. Do you think sort of the move to the virtual space that we're all living in now and may still end up living in the future, depending on how the world goes, do you think that will be sort of innate of that?
I hope so. I hope folks will continue to see that, audiences don't just respond to seeing literally, when we say we want to see ourselves in a story, I think we should not be thinking, I want to see my white face up there. I respond to stories because of something innate in the storytelling. And I think too often we ask filmmakers and storytellers to sort of contort themselves to tell normative, predominantly white, affluent stories.
Right.
And I think the digital space, if anything, it'll just create new opportunities to make event experiences. We don't know what they'll be yet, but knowing several publicists, I'm excited at the opportunity post-COVID when, stunts and all the fun things that publicists do come back into play when it's not in bad taste to try to get people to see your movie.
Right,
Um,
right.
I'm excited for whatever that'll be, but I think it'll be different in this digital world.
Yeah.
And more and certainly have a wider embrace.
Now, I mean, this is a bit of a goofy question, but I always like to ask it because this film is probably one of the better and one of my more favorite indie films of the year that I've seen so far, and it's definitely making my year-end list. And I'm kind of curious, as independent storytellers and filmmakers, what's your desert island indie film?
Oh, I mean, I love the movie Moon with Sam Rockwell.
Oh, good choice. Yeah.
That was Short Term 12 really impacted how I see independent film. Yeah, those would probably be my two.
Oh my God, I just lost mine. I think this is considered independent film, but I really love David Lowery's work, the work of his that is independent. I think like the Ghost Story.
Ghost Story is so wild and so
Anthem
wonderful.
Body Saints, and I think I just know how much intention he puts into every frame, and it would be great to like return to those films, being alone on an island. I'm assuming I'm alone on the island, but yeah.
Well, and you know what? I think this film also is kind of representative of that, because there is this kinetic honesty and earnestness that is so relatable across gender lines, across color lines, across all kinds of lines, because it's people learning about people, and that's really what makes your film so lovely and so fascinating. And I just want to say thank you again for the time today. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
I really
much.
appreciate
Yeah,
it.
this was a blast.
All right, thanks guys.